Thank you to Anker for sponsoring today's video. This last week was simultaneously one of the most confusing and magical weeks on the road so far. The day before a storm hit New Mexico, I found out that my heater had stopped working yet again, and so my plans to go up into the mountains were temporarily thwarted as I scrambled to find somewhere to ride out the storm. Honestly, the state of my van life right now, very confusing. Thankfully, I did, kind of, and once the system passed, I was able to make my way up into one of the most remote, gorgeous mountain ranges I never guessed I'd find in southern New Mexico. Hi, we're back in the van. I'm excited to be home. I'm basically spending this week in White Sands National Park, and then I'm gonna go up into the mountains. There's this national forest a little bit east of White Sands. It looks like it's mountainy. It looks like there's like greenery, forested trees, that kind of stuff. And that's about it. My gosh, I wish that was about it. The journey from the dunes to the mountains was far from simple, but it did work out in the end. On this first evening, I made my way towards White Sands for what I thought was going to be my last sunset before heading into the mountains. The first couple weeks I spent in this area, I did most of my exploring in the first few miles of the park, but on this day, I finally went all the way back to the picnic kind of loop areas, where I proceeded to kick myself mentally for waiting so long to drive this loop. Ready? As the sun set behind the mountains, I ate a whole batch of strawberries on accident, and I also ran around taking a bunch of pictures. The hills were still on this evening, which was a nice break from the windstorms we've been experiencing, and the air was warm. There was no sign yet of the cold front that would be scrambling our plans in the coming days, and so I enjoyed the calm quiet until my fingers started to go numb. Before we get any farther, I'd like to thank Anker for sponsoring today's video. Whether you're thinking about living on the road full-time or traveling here and there on the weekends, one of the biggest and quite frankly most expensive decisions you're going to make is how you're going to have electricity. Now, for a full-time rig, the headache of a DIY electrical system is more or less worth it, but for shorter-term trips or for anyone thinking about living out of a car or a van with a minimal build, you're probably more likely to end up with something like these Anker portable power stations that are delivered to you, already ready to use, no assembling necessary. Anker is recognized as the world's #1 mobile charging brand, pioneering in charging technology for 10 years with over 200 million products sold. Anker makes the most long-lasting portable power stations on the market and are currently offering 4 different stations that are easy to use and easy to charge. The Anker 521 and 535 both have built-in pure sine wave inverters, which means that not only do you have 12-volt power with their USB-C and USB charging ports, but you also have access to 110V AC power, which means that you can plug in and use normal appliances like computers, drones, and even CPAPs. Charging these power stations is also super simple. You can plug them in while you're driving, plug them into a normal wall outlet in a house, or you can buy solar panels and be fully off the grid. So if you end up finding yourself needing a super simple electrical system, or you're in need of backup power supply option, these Anker power stations are great. You can learn more by clicking the link in my description. I'm gonna try something that I might be underqualified for. I'm going to make, I think it's called a tahini bowl, but I don't have any tahini, so a tahini bowl minus the tahini. That's what I'm making. I don't even know what I need to cook. This dinner was inspired by a dinner that Nathaniel had made Christian and I the week before in Arizona. He'd made us some sort of bowl with a rainbow of vegetables, kale, avocado, tomato, lime, sweet potato, chickpeas. I can't even remember half of what he put in his, but it was actually the best thing that I'd ever eaten. That night, I did ask if he followed a recipe, and he replied something along the lines of, no, not really. So this evening, a week later, was my attempt at mashing together a few recipes that I found off of Pinterest to start learning the basics of cooking these Buddha tahini bowl things. It does look like an off-brand version of what Nathaniel created. It's like off-brand, but like not in a horrifying way. Hold on, I gotta take another bite. I'm gonna cry. I feel like my final form is like a girl, a piece of land, a tiny house, classical music in the morning, candles at night, big yard with like 3 dogs running around. The next morning, I drove from the town of Alamogordo to the tiny town of Carrizozo, where I picked up a package at a little Amazon locker. And as I drove out there, the weather was starting to pick up. I don't say this often, but it is ugly outside. It is windy, it is stormy, I'm in the little town of Carrizozo. I made myself some tacos because I'm feeling very almost out of body. This happens sometimes when I'm in a place that just feels so like very, very unfamiliar. Like it's just a very small town. I'm here because I had a couple packages delivered, and for some reason I chose this place to get stuff shipped to. Anyways, honestly, the state of my van life right now, very confusing. There's clearly a storm coming in, and everything's really cold, and that normally wouldn't be a big deal, except my heater stopped working again. I'm eating tacos, and I'm trying to tell myself that it's going to be fine. Okay, let's get out of this town. Whoa! What just happened? I'm in a tunnel. I drove until the sunset again and ended up pulling into a Walmart parking lot for the night. I took advantage of it by getting groceries, buying propane, filling up my water for the week. I fell asleep a little sad that I'd be waking up to rain instead of snow in the morning, but apparently I don't understand how to read weather forecasts because nice and slow, we're gonna go nice and slow because I don't like driving in snow. Okay, my brain did not put 2 and 2 together that precipitation and freezing temperatures meant snow. On the forecast it didn't say snow, it said rain. Like it had a little rain shower storm thing. I'm gonna go right now to the Carlsbad Caverns. Going down into a cave sounds oddly fun. And what else is there to do when it's this stormy outside? Today is gonna be a little bit of a fail for Finn. Anytime that it snows, he can't regulate temperature, so he can't go outside basically. That's a good coffee. So I lied. It's 7 degrees too cold to leave Finn in the car. I'm gonna come back tomorrow morning. Dude, I'm telling you, the road kicked my butt this week, and it wasn't anybody's fault but my own. And I'm actually now, like a week later, able to look back and see that it all happened for a reason. But at the time, I definitely felt like a failure of a traveler. So basically, the day that I decided that it was too cold to leave Finn, I drove to a little free campground near the national park to post up for the weekend. I was there for 3 nights, enjoying my time off, and so it wasn't until my 4th or 5th day in the area that I tried again to go into the national park. And on that day, I found out that you have to have a reservation to go into the caves. Now, did I know this before I drove out there? Yes, I actually did know that you had to buy like separate tickets to be able to go into the caverns. However, did I know that you had to buy these tickets online and that you had to buy them in advance? No. And do I look like the kind of person responsible enough to buy anything in advance? Probably not. So I turned around with my tail between my legs and headed back towards Carrizozo, where I had another package arriving. And it was on that seemingly pointless drive back that my luck finally changed. I drove for 2 hours through flatland and farmland and swerving around the tumbleweeds that were floating across the highway, and all of a sudden I realized that I had found myself gaining elevation and flying through one of the most remote, beautiful, open mountain ranges that I'd seen in New Mexico. I immediately pulled over, checked iOverlander, found half a dozen super highly reviewed spots, and decided there and then that I'd found my home for the week. And gosh, I'm so happy that I stopped when I did, because I got to spend a week and a half up here in these mountains.
Apologies are top of my brain. And you keep the credit. You're a thief, but it's okay. Notify you next again. Let them know the house got damned again. Open up the window. Let us in and you'll be okay. I don't wanna see table.
There's a lot of cow poop out here. It's so funny how many times I have the realization that I need to be out by myself in a wide open space. I need to be able to get out of my van without thinking that people are watching me. It really is kind of hard to find. It really is, especially if you don't know a place very well. And I am in new territory. Hello, New Mexico. I don't know how to do you. I decided last night that I'm gonna stay here for the next week. And I'm going to pretend that the van is in a massive tiny house and that these mountains are what I get to wake up to every morning for the rest of my life. That is basically what I did for the next 8 days, and slowing down this week made the time pass by in what felt like slow motion. I edited during the days, played fetch with Finn in the evenings, made myself some bare-bone meals because I'd skipped the grocery store on my way up the mountain, and each night I made fires and watched the moon grow fuller and fuller until, on my last day in the area, the full moon loomed over us. I'm not sure what it was about this spot, but I felt so safe and comfortable, which led to a lot of time being spent outside at night, watching Interstellar with my new projector, just sitting and staring at the sky. I never thought I'd add New Mexico to the list of potential future home bases, but after my week here, it's definitely in the running, and that is all I'm going to say about that. I'm fucking cold. I am right where I belong. Almost. A piece of lettuce touched the inside of my nose. It was very uncomfortable. Alamogordo. Alamogordo? Is that what the town is called? I'm so happy. I'm really sad about it.